I came because of the food. I don't know why you came, but Diversity Foods are here for lunch, I'm told, and I'll travel a distance to take part in that feast. I think that may be an element of community development that we have lost in our busyness to structure our work. I've suggested to some groups that I've been involved with recently in the city that for every small accomplishment, we should take a time out and feast. That we don't do enough feasting to celebrate our diversity and our accomplishments in community. And that may be an important aspect of today's connecting and celebrating. That we remember the celebration as part of the sharing of life. If there's any hope, any transition taking place, then it should be celebrated. I acknowledge the great diversity of this gathering. Many peoples of many nations, of many cultures and languages. A wonderful gift. As I walked into this building this morning, having heard over the years of many good things happening in Seven Oaks School Division, I was amazed to see on the wall, on the other side of this room, Bimat Bisiwin, which means the fullness of life. I think something we are working for in our diverse attempts to be ethical and just in this time. Often programs in community, we say, well, in the meantime, we'll live with this. Well, this is a meantime. Mean in many ways. The dehumanization, the kinds of impersonal processes of agencies and government institutions, and often schools themselves, has been, in my experience, depressing. I think one of the aspects that we work on in our connecting and our celebration are based on words like the ones here. My favorite is respect. That we have the capacity in our work, in our process, to respect the diversity of opinions, of values, of cultures, of philosophies, and of the many gifts contained within our communities. So I have a problem with the UN Declaration of Human Rights. I have a problem with economic development that focuses only on economy, dollars and cents. I have a problem because I believe there has to be a balance. And what we've just heard from Clayton is about discovering a balance between economic greed and capacity for growth on the bottom line, as we say, to the capacity to live with what we need to live. So the requirements in a Cree community for an Inuit is that we only take what we need, and of what we have, we share. So there's that second component that I would remind you of. The capacity of generosity, the capacity of feeling empathy and being a part of community as human persons with all our components. We must be involved with each other in ways that we've forgotten. I believe the idea of sharing life, of feasting, of having moments of sadness shared together, the celebration of accomplishment, all of these things acknowledge our humanness, humans being as real persons. The general experience in North America, not just by First Nations persons, by Indigenous peoples, but by most peoples who come to this land, is that cloning is acceptable. That doing away with languages and cultures and value systems is part of becoming Canadian. Well, I live in Manitoba. In Cree, it means Manitoba, the Creator's resting place. This is to create a resting place. And in this place, I believe we can grow together with all that we need. I state that because I grew up in a village that worked with extended family and the sharing of life. When I was a child in my village, there was no understanding of unemployment. That was a government concept that later came because there was an expectation everyone should be earning a certain kind of salary and doing measurable kinds of work. Well, in my village, as I grew up as a child, there were many kinds of activities that were valuable to the community that didn't have an economic value. So I love the ads that say, you know, this investment in a jacket is $49. This investment is so much. Shared life, priceless. Priceless. I think what we strive for in real community development is that which is priceless, which is gift, which is mystery, because that we can be together. It is possible to overcome what have been erected as barriers and judgments and measurements that are based on expectations that don't fit every person in our community. So I'm hoping for diversity. I'm dreaming about inclusion. And I'm especially hopeful about celebrations in community. A story. When I was in residential school, I came back to Winnipeg, and I heard a story when I came back on one occasion about a young family from a northern village. He had been in residential school in Winnipeg. Some of you may have known of Assiniboia Residential School along the Assiniboine River. He was a student there, and he went to Red River College, or community college, after residential school. He became a cabinet maker, a very expert cabinet maker, very proficient. And during his apprenticeship, he worked with a company in the city and did very well. They loved his work. After about 2 years there, he had a friend back in the north, and he and she decided they would share their life. So he went home. When he was at home, the economic opportunities were minimal. He would work for a few months each year on carpentry, but often he was unemployed, a word that he was learning about. So unemployment and poverty and limited opportunities were a challenge for them. So Luke and Mary, with a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, decided together to move to Winnipeg, the place of opportunity and future development. He contacted the company that he had worked for as an apprentice. They welcomed him to come back, so he came back to the city, left his family in the north, got his job, found a 2-bedroom apartment, established himself, and then arranged for his family to join him. A nice inner city 2-bedroom apartment. Luke and Mary moved in, and they made life. But Mary spoke little English, and she was very lonely. So after about 4 months of being alone with the children day after day, while he was at work, she invited her aunt and uncle to come from the village to come and be with them. 2-bedroom apartment, now 6 people. It worked. For a number of months they were together. And then Luke's cousin had to come in for surgery. And she was in hospital, and so her husband came to spend time with her and also stayed with Luke and Mary. Now, as she was discharged from hospital and had to have ongoing care, there were now, how many people? 8 in a 2-bedroom apartment. Well, the landlord was complaining a bit, and the dollars that Luke was making from his job began to be stretched a bit to cover the food costs and the other expenses of being so many people living on one salary. Finally, one day, he was late with his payment of rent, and the landlord said, at the end of the month, you have to be out. back to the north with his family, back to poverty and limited opportunities, now very worried about his 2 young daughters who were going to enter school. So he could see the opportunities back in Winnipeg, so back he comes again. Leaves his family in the north, finds a job in a cabinet-making business in the city. This time he finds a little house out towards Headingley along the Assiniboine River. They have an unlisted number on their phone. They're far enough away from the inner city that their relatives won't find them. Now let me tell you what really disturbed me about this. People began to say, Luke and Mary made it. They made it. What Luke and Mary did is they had to cut all their family ties, basically cut their philosophy of life in order to be financially viable in this kind of society. I'm telling you, that's still a problem. As First Peoples, as Indigenous, we still tend to be with family. We still tend to care for each other because it's who we are. And I'm sure for many new Canadians as well, it's a pattern you've experienced where people really care about each other. So any program for economic development, for community development, that highlights only the individual advancement, or even the core family, the nuclear family development, is missing much of the possibility. The potential for transformative life in community, in extended families, in cultural groups, of moving people together to a new place, is the way I believe the Creator is inviting us to take hold of life. So on this wall, beautiful words of invitation to community. But at the very back corner, I have a problem. There's a quotation up there that says, "There is no substitute for hard work." Well, let me tell you, economic development people, social justice people, that hard work isn't the only component of real life. People committed only to working 8 to 5 month after month after month with a little bit of a holiday have missed the mark. I believe the right to a living wage for everyone who has also a human capacity to celebrate together and take time off work is a model that we have yet to explore on Turtle Island. We have adopted a concept of work, 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 and as individuals to move forward on everyone else's back, and that's called making it. That's success. Aggressive, adversarial life patterns are adopted as a norm. That results in the tar sands. That results in systems of economic structure that always maintains a component of poor people, sustains poor people on a minimal allowance. Totally unjust, unacceptable. We're in a society where we can dream. The one thing the day school and the residential school did not destroy for me was that I dream. So I dream this day of not only connecting the dots, which is a fairly comic strip kind of process at the back of the newspaper. I used to do it. Once I learned the numbers, I'd out of these dots make an image, but only a line drawing. I believe community development has a capacity to bring creative art forms and shapes and music, like diamonds on the soles of my shoes that I heard this morning. We can bring a new dynamic to life that is full without having to maintain poverty as part of the equation. I am for liberation and dream. I am for the celebration of diversity that is here. Thank you for doing what you do. Let's now connect and dream beyond the lines. Let us bring some color and dynamic to this new possibility that we are a part of. I give thanks to the organizers, and for this 13th year, what a lucky year it is to be a part of this process. Thank you for doing what you do. Egusane.